Hi, friends. I'm Max Lucado. Welcome to Fresh Hope. Today we continue a series based on my book, In the Eye of the Storm. Hold tight. We're headed straight into the storms that wreak havoc on our lives and our faith. You know, there's a window in your heart through which you can see God. And once upon a time, that window was clear. You could see God as vividly as you could see a gentle valley or hillside. The glass was clean, the pane unbroken. You knew God. You knew how He worked. No surprises, nothing unexpected. You knew that God had a will, and you continually discovered what that will was. Then, suddenly, the window cracked. A pebble broke the window, a pebble of pain. Perhaps the stone struck when you were a child and a parent left home forever. Maybe the rock hit in adolescence when your heart was broken. Maybe you made it into adulthood before the window was cracked. But then the pebble came. Was it a phone call? Maybe the officer's voice on the line said, "We have your daughter at the station. You better come down." Was it a letter on the kitchen table? Messy handwriting declaring, "I've left. It's over. I just don't love you anymore." Was it a diagnosis from the doctor saying the news isn't good? Whatever the pebble's form, the result was the same. A shattered window, a spider web of fragmented pieces. Suddenly, God was not so easy to see. His figure was distorted. It was hard to see Him through the pain. You were puzzled. God wouldn't allow something like this to happen, would He? Tragedy and travesty weren't on the agenda, were they? Had you been fooled? Had you been blind? The moment the pebble struck, the glass became a reference point for you. From then on, there was life before the pain and life after the pain. Before your pain, the view was clear. God seemed so near. After your pain, well, He was harder to see. Now, maybe these words don't describe your situation. There are some people who never have to redefine or refocus their view of God. Most of us do. Most of us know what it means to feel disappointed by God. Most of us have a way of completing this sentence. If God is God, then, and you fill in the blank. Call it an agenda, a divine job description. Each of us has an unspoken yet definitive expectation of what God should do. If God is God, then there will be no financial collapse in my family. My children will never be buried before me. People will treat me fairly. My prayer will be answered. Now, these are not articulated criteria. They are not written down or notarized, but they are real. And they define the expectations we have of God. And when pain comes into our world, these expectations go unmet and doubts begin to surface. We look for God, but can't find Him. Fragmented glass hinders our vision, and you aren't quite sure what you see. The disciples weren't sure what they saw either. Our story picks up soon after Jesus fed the 5,000. On that day, Jesus failed to meet the disciples' expectations. The 12 had finished their training. They were ready for battle. They expected Jesus to let the crowds crown Him as king and attack the city of Herod where John the Baptist had been killed. They expected battle plans, strategies, a new era for Israel. What did they get? Just the opposite. Instead of weapons, they got oars. Rather than being sent to fight, they were sent to float. The crowds were sent away. Jesus walked away, and they were left on the water with a storm brewing in the sky. Now, what kind of Messiah would do this? Note carefully the sequence of the stormy evening as Matthew records it in chapter 14, verses 22 through 24. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Matthew is specific about the order of events. Jesus sent the disciples to the boat. Then he dismissed the crowd. Then he ascended a mountainside. It was evening, probably around 6 p.m. The storm struck immediately. The sun had scarcely set before typhoon-like winds began to roar. Note that Jesus sent the disciples into the storm alone. Even as he was ascending the mountainside, he could feel and hear the gale's force. Jesus was not ignorant of the storm. He was aware that a torrent was coming that would soon carpet bomb the sea's surface. But he didn't turn around. The disciples were left to face the storm alone. The greatest storm that night was not in the sky, it was in the disciples' hearts. The greatest fear was not from seeing the storm-driven waves, it came from seeing the back of their leader as he left them to face the night with only questions as companions. It was this fury that the disciples were facing that night. Imagine the incredible strain of bouncing from wave to wave on a tiny fishing vessel. 1 hour would weary you. 2 hours would exhaust you. Surely Jesus will help us, they thought. They'd seen him still storms like this before on this same sea. They had awakened him during a storm, and he had commanded the skies to be silent. They had seen him quiet the wind and soothe the waves. Surely he will come off the mountain. But he doesn't. Their arms begin to ache from rowing. Still no sign of Jesus. 3 hours, 4 hours, the winds rage, the boat bounces, still no Jesus. Midnight comes. Their eyes search for God in vain. By now, the disciples have been on the sea for as long as 6 hours. All this time, they have fought the storm and sought the Master. And so far, the storm is winning. And the Master is nowhere to be found. One of them cried, "Where is he?" Another yelled, "Has he forgotten us?" A third muttered, "He feeds thousands of strangers and yet leaves us to die." The Gospel of Mark adds a compelling insight into the attitude of the disciples. In chapter 6, in verse 52, Mark says, "They had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened." What does Mark mean? Simply this: the disciples were mad. They began the evening in a huff. Their hearts were hardened toward Jesus because he fed the multitude. Their preference, according to Matthew 14:15, had been to send the crowds away. And Jesus told them to feed the people. But they wouldn't even try. They said it couldn't be done. They told Jesus to let the people take care of themselves. Also keep in mind that the disciples had just spent some time on center stage on a mission for Jesus, performing miracles in his name. They had tasted stardom. They were celebrities. They had rallied the crowds. They had recruited an army. They were, no doubt, pretty proud of themselves, with chests a bit puffy and heads a bit swollen. They had told Jesus, just send them away. Jesus didn't. Instead, he chose to bypass the reluctant disciples and used the faith of an anonymous boy and his meager lunch. What the disciples said could not be done was done in spite of them, not through them. So they pouted. Rather than be amazed at the miracle, they became mad at the master. After all, they had felt foolish passing out the very bread they said could not be made. Add to that Jesus' command to go to the boat when they wanted to go to battle, and it's easier to understand why these guys are burning. 1 a.m., no Jesus. 2 a.m., no Jesus. Peter, Andrew, James, and John have seen storms like this. They are fishermen. The sea is their life. They know the havoc these gale force winds can wreak. They've seen the splintered hulls float to shore. They've attended the funerals. They know better than anyone that this night could be their last. Why doesn't he come? They ask. Well, finally he does. Matthew 14:25 says, during the fourth watch of the night, which would have been between 3 and 6 a.m., Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. Jesus came. He finally came. But between verse 24, being buffeted by the waves, and verse 25, when Jesus appeared, 1,000 questions are asked. Questions you've probably asked too. Perhaps you know the angst of being suspended between verses 24 and 25. Maybe you're riding a storm, searching the coastline for a light, a glimmer of hope, and you know that Jesus knows what you're going through. You know he's aware of your storm. But as hard as you look to find him, you can't see him. Maybe your heart, like the disciples' hearts, has been hardened by unmet expectations. Your pleadings for help are salted with angry questions. In the first part of this series, we talked about stress. In the final part, we're addressing storms. Stress attacks your nerves. Storms attack your faith. Stress interrupts. Storms destroy. Stress comes like a siren. Storms come like a missile. Stress clouds the day. Storms usher in the night. The question of stress is, how can I cope? The question of storms, where is God? And why would he do this? If the pebble of pain has struck the window of your heart, if you've known the horror of looking for God's face and seeing only his back as he ascends a mountainside, the next episode of this series is for you. I'll tell you a story about a father who learned of trust, not during 6 hours on a boat, but during a 6-hour drive with 3 children. The message, when you can't see him, trust him. The figure you see is not a ghost, and the voice you hear is not the wind. Jesus is closer than you've ever dreamed. Thanks so much for joining me today, my friends. I hope you'll come back next time as we conclude this series based on my book, In the Eye of the Storm. Until then, please remember, no matter how stormy your day or restless your night, God knows how you feel, and he understands.
You don't have to stay close. long as you're somewhere out there, that's enough for me. I don't need to hold you near me, don't need promises to keep. Just the thought that you are breathing somewhere in this world I see. Even if I'm not beside you, even if you never know, there's a quiet kind of comfort just in knowing you still glow. I don't need forever, I just need you to exist. You don't have to stay with me, you don't have to feel the same. Just as long as you're still out there, calling softly through my days. You don't have to look my way, you don't have to be my home. It's enough to know you're living in a world I'm not alone. I won't chase you through the distance, won't disturb your chosen life. I'll just keep you in my silence, like a star that shines at night. Through the dark and through the blue, I still think of you. You don't have to stay with me, you don't have to feel the same. Just as long as you're still out there, calling softly through my days. You don't have to look my way, you don't have to be my home. It's enough to know you're living in a world I'm not alone. I don't need to be your light, I don't need to cross your mind. All I need is just the truth that you're somewhere still alive. You don't have to stay with me, you don't have to feel the same. Just as long as you're still out there, calling softly through my days. You don't have to look my way, you don't have to be my home. It's enough to know you're living in a world out